why we provide different internet solutions for your different needs. SLT Fiber, 4G and ADSL. SLT Broadband, just the way you want it.
Tonight, survival. Arjun Aloysius files motion seeking two prominent central bank figures be named suspects in the bond scam. Exploring the untapped. Sri Lanka apparel exporters target new markets in a bid to boost revenue to $8 billion by 2025. Profitable venture. The US Navy sets up a 25 million rupee temporary cargo transfer operation in Sri Lanka.
As soon as we are done with our mission, we'll be leaving and taking everything with us.
And deepening crisis. Venezuela's president cuts ties with the United States after it recognizes opposition leader as president. Russia, meanwhile, warns Washington against military intervention against its closest ally. Tonight, Thursday, 24th of January 2019.
Smart Android තාක්ෂණයෙන් එන Singer Vista TV එකක් මිලදී ගන්නා ඔබට හිත පිරෙන්න වාසි රැසක් ඕනෑම Singer ප්‍රදර්ශනාගාරයකින්.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9 with Ndivari Amuata and Mahesh Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to First at 9 right here on Ada Derana 24. Good evening, Indivari.
Good evening, Mahesh.
Lots of stories to report tonight. Especially interesting that the central bank bond issue is once again back in the limelight.
Our headline story.
Yeah, as you saw, one of his key we could say perpetrators is asking the government or the courts to name few other suspects in the case as well.
Including Senior Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Nandalal Veerasinghe, as suspects in the case.
Yeah.
I think this story itself is getting interesting day by day. And also we have in our headline making story in international news, brewing tensions between Russia and the United States once
Quite
again.
interesting to see.
Right, because the Russian government is calling the United States defense of Venezuela's opposition as an attempt of the United States to usurp power there.
Indeed. We could actually wait and see how this is going to roll out, especially the dynamics between Trump and Putin.
Right.
We'll be reporting on that story as well. But we start off with our headline story tonight.
President Maithripala Sirisena, who is in Singapore attending the Asia-Pacific Forum of Environment, met with the President of Singapore, Halima Yacob, today. Participants from 41 Asia-Pacific member states, which fall under the regional office of the United Nations Environmental Programme, are gathered in Singapore to discuss environmental challenges as part of the third edition of this forum.
Now, President Sirisena is also scheduled to address the forum, which is held on the theme Innovative Solutions for Environmental Challenges and Sustainable Consumption and Production. During the talks between the President of Sri Lanka and Singapore, today relations between the two nations were reviewed.
President Maithripala Sirisena, who is visiting in Singapore to attend the Asia-Pacific Forum of Environment Ministers and Heads of Environment Authorities, met the Singaporean President Halima Yacob today to discuss future of bilateral ties. The Singaporean president had expressed appreciation over measures taken by Sri Lanka in terms of political, social and economic development, while also commending the initiative and leadership to eradicate drug trafficking in Sri Lanka. In the meantime, President Maithripala Sirisena met with the Singaporean Minister of Social and Family Development and Deputy Minister of National Development Desmond Lee. He also met state officials of relevant institutes in Singapore working towards prevention of illegal drugs. During these discussions, Singapore had agreed to share their technical know-how for the prevention of narcotic drugs in Sri Lanka and to assist the island's drug prevention campaign. Accordingly, a special team of officials will arrive in Sri Lanka shortly to provide assistance for Sri Lanka's program to end drug trafficking.
Well, the case pertaining to the central bank bond scam took another twist today, as we said, with a motion being filed at the Colombo Magistrates Court requesting that Senior Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Nandalal Veerasinghe, and former Deputy Governor Anand Silva be named as suspects. The motion was filed by the attorney representing owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius, who is named as the second suspect in the case. Now, the case was taken up today before Colombo Chief Magistrate Lanka Jayaratne. The attorney appearing on behalf of Aloysius submitted his stance, saying that the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which investigated the bond issuance in its recommendation, had stated that Senior Deputy Governor Nandalal Veerasinghe and retired Deputy Governor Anand Silva are responsible for the incident. The defence lawyer further argued that even a statement given by the Auditor General in connection with the investigation had directly implicated both of them in the bond scam. He also charged that the Criminal Investigations Department is evasive of naming these two persons as suspects and arresting them. He requested the court that a directive be issued naming the duo as suspects in this case. In response, the magistrate stated that the request will have to be deliberated when the investigative officers are also present, and therefore informed Aloysius' lawyers to present their argument when the case is taken up again on the 25th of next month.
In other stories we have for you tonight, the chairman of the Committee on Public Enterprises, Parliamentarian Sunil Handunetty, submitted its report on 17 state institutions in Parliament today. The attention of the House was directed to Sri Lankan Airlines, with Parliamentarian Handunetty saying that the national carrier incurred a staggering 40 billion rupees in losses during the past 9 months.
Now, we do remember the demands of the plantation workers who sought an increment in their daily wages, and that was also brought up in Parliament today.
I present the first COPE report for the period of 1st of July 2017 to the 30th of September 2017. This report covers 17 entities summoned in the latter part of 2018. We urge you consider making the COPE report available to media. The national carrier has incurred losses in 2014 which amounts to 32,357 million. In 2015 it was 16 billion and 12 billion in 2016. In the past 9 months, the loss was 40 billion rupees. We are unable to increase the wages of the plantation workers, but the public enterprises are losing large sums of money. We request a debate on the COPE report as soon as possible before the presentation of the budget. We are ready to give a debate. We wouldn't have given you the chairmanship of COPE if we wanted to hide anything. When Sunil Handunetty was selected for the post during the working committee, most of your members were not even present, and it was MP Lakshman Seneviratne who proposed his name. If you try to curb corruption with good intentions, insist your Prime Minister to bring back Arjuna Mahendran soon. This is a wonderful government. They accept the issues, but they don't give solutions. They even accept the issue of plantation workers, but don't give a solution. The concern of the most poorest community in the country should be a responsibility of this government. We put the lives of 150,000 people in the hands of 21 plantation owners. The responsibility for their lives should be shouldered by the government. Discussions with plantation owners have failed. We're waiting. Join our struggle. I can even leave this ministerial position behind. Minister Naveen said that they can't give more than 600 rupees. We should be ashamed because we should speak on behalf of plantation workers. If they are unable to speak on behalf of these workers, as a government, we will be with them.
The Constitutional Council has submitted nominations for the vacant membership positions of 2 independent commissions to President Maithripala Sirisena. Chaired by Speaker of Parliament Karu Jayasuriya, the Constitutional Council convened at the Parliamentary Complex yesterday. The Speaker's office stated that 6 nominations for the National Police Commission and 1 nomination for the Public Service Commission was submitted by the Council. Recommendations made by the President for the Council, the position of Court of Appeal President and a Justice position were also taken into consideration during the meeting. However, the Constitutional Council has not reached a final decision in this regard.
Now, schools are the institutions which often fashion and prepare children for their future engagements with open society. The skill set which students acquire from the schools may vary dependent on personalities, but one thing that is sure is that schools afford the opportunity for students to experience leadership. In that regard, Commander of the Sri Lanka Army Lieutenant General Mahesh Senanayake was full of praise for the prefect system at schools, saying it serves young leaders as a stepping stone in becoming future leaders. Delivering the keynote address at the prefect's investiture of Anula Vidyalaya this morning, the Army commander also hinted that sexual equality is nothing new for Sri Lanka, given the fact that the island nation produced the world's first ever woman Prime Minister.
Sri Lanka attracted a great deal of attention in 1960 with the election of world's first woman Prime Minister. And later in 1995 again, the election of the first woman executive president in Sri Lanka was an exceptional and unique turning point of the power shift. These two incidents were widely interpreted in Sri Lanka and outside as an indicator of the role and the position of women of Sri Lankan society, a position of equality and independence. Sri Lankan women flourish in many professions, and they have represented in planning and decision or policy making levels, both in private and public sector in today. Life at school must be a very pleasant experience to every child. It is their right to enjoy life at school. At present, youth has to face many challenges such as drug addiction, social media related crimes. As young leaders, you have a greater responsibility to impart knowledge and establish a sound value base in relation to health and drug use and using social media in an effective manner in order to protect youth around you. The current opportunity which prefects have to serve is a stepping stone for them to become superior leaders in time to come.
8 students from the Eastern University arrested over posing for photographs on the ruins of the ancient Kiralagala Stupa were remanded until the 5th of next month after being produced before the Kapitikulava Magistrates Court. A whirlwind of controversy blew in after these students released photographs of themselves seated on the ancient ruins of Kiralagala on social media. Launching investigation into the incident, Horapatana police arrested the 7 engineering students yesterday who are on their last year at the Eastern University, with another suspect being arrested today. All 8 were produced before the Magistrates Court, following which they were remanded.
Well, that's it from us for now, but we'll return with your business news after this short commercial break. Just stay with us.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Other Derana 24.
In business news, Sri Lanka's HDFC, a majority state-run bank, has been downgraded by Fitch Ratings to BB+ Lanka with a stable outlook from BB- Lanka amid questions over state support. Issuing its rating, Fitch noted that their assessment takes into consideration that the state, as a major shareholder, has not injected new capital into HDFC, that the bank would need to meet the minimum regulatory capital requirement of 5 billion rupees that came into force on the 1st of January 2016. The rating agency's view also reflects the weakening of the sovereign's ability to provide support following the downgrades of Sri Lanka's sovereign rating to B stable from B+ stable on the 3rd of December last year. HDFC Bank's bad loans were 20.5% of total loans at the end of the 3rd quarter of 2018 compared to 2.50% industry average. This has been due to mainly defaults from housing loans backed by the Employees Provident Fund, which contributed more than half of the bank's total housing non-performing loans at the end of the 3rd quarter of 2018.
The Ministry of Finance today called for proposals from all stakeholders, including the general public, for government's 2019 budget. Proposals will be accepted until the 11th of February. In a statement, the Finance Ministry said it expects to mold public policy in accordance with the aspirations of the community under the theme of democracy, reconciliation and development, and thereby public proposals will contribute to ensure the introduction of a successful budget. Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaraveera will present the budget of 2019 in Parliament on the 5th of March. The statement went on to note the upcoming document will be a performance-based budget and necessary allocations for projects will be made available on the basis of the action plans prepared and submitted by the respective ministries. Professionals, scholars, the general public and those engaged in the sectors of manufacturing, services and the agriculture are requested to send in their proposals for Budget 2019 to reach the Ministry Director General at the Department of Trade and Policy Investments.
Sri Lanka's geopolitical location is both its blessing and bane, since global and regional superpowers identify it as ideal for their operations. The General Secretary of the SLFP alleged last week that the government is in talks with the United States over setting up a U.S. military base in Sri Lanka. Often the sight of equipment for movement of the military of a foreign nation can cause a stir, giving rise to conjecture and misinterpretation. It is in this backdrop that the U.S. Embassy in Colombo issued a statement saying that the U.S. Navy has started a temporary transfer operation to move cargo between planes at the Bandaranaike International Airport and outside Colombo from the 21st to the 29th of this month. The statement ensures that no cargo or military equipment or personnel associated with this initiative will remain in Sri Lanka after the completion of the cargo transfer. It also highlighted that Sri Lanka will gain 25 million rupees from the operation.
U.S. Navy aircraft from Bahrain carried approximately 2,300 kilograms of cargo to be transferred to U.S. warships in the Indian Ocean region. Accordingly, cargo will be transferred to smaller ships that belong to USS John C. Stennis, which is a nuclear-powered supercarrier of the U.S. Navy. This is reported to be the third phase of the temporary transfer of cargo in Sri Lanka, and such operations were conducted at Katunayake and Trincomalee airports in August and December last year. The U.S. Embassy in Colombo released a statement saying that supplies may include personal mail for sailors, paper goods, spare parts and tools and other items. It also gave assurance that no cargo, military equipment or personnel associated with this initiative will remain in Sri Lanka after the completion of the cargo transfer. The statement goes on to say, quote, Sri Lanka's leaders have outlined their vision for the country's regional engagement that reflects its location at the nexus of the Indo-Pacific and seizes the opportunities that this unique position presents, unquote. The statement goes on to say that under the initiative, several U.S. naval aircraft are scheduled to land and depart from the commercial airport, bringing in a variety of non-lethal supplies.
It's going to bring approximately 25 million rupees to the area just from these few days that we're here. As soon as we are done with our mission, we'll be leaving and taking everything with us.
Sri Lanka's location in the Indian Ocean and our ability to leverage private industry gives us the chance to move the right materials to the right place at the right time. This also helps us build familiarity in the region and build partnerships that would benefit us in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief efforts in the future.
Well, the London Stock Exchange Group said its trade matching technology developed by its Sri Lankan unit has been chosen for AAX, a new cryptocurrency digital exchange platform being launched by Hong Kong-based fintech firm Atom Group. Now, AAX, expected to launch in the first half of 2019, will be the first digital asset exchange venue to use LSE Group's Millennium Exchange Matching Engine. In a statement, they said that the matching engine was developed in Sri Lanka by LSEG Technology, formerly Millenniumite. The AAX exchange will allow investors to trade all major digital assets with greater level of fairness, transparency and performance.
And Sri Lanka's apparel exporters say they're looking to venture new markets in order to achieve an $8 billion revenue target for 2025. But an industry association said that this target, they question whether it is achievable as they're facing domestic policy disruptions when working towards this goal.
The Sri Lanka Apparel Exporters Association said in a statement that an annual average compound growth of about 6% is required in order to achieve the 2025 target. According to the Export Development Board, apparel exports grew 4.6% to $4,960 million in 2018. We also spoke to the Joint Apparel Association to find out what challenges lie ahead for Sri Lankan apparel exporters.
If you take it on the basis of the current annual growth, you are not going to go anywhere. 8 billion to be achieved in 2025 demands basically a 6% year-on-year growth. Now, that essentially says that the present level of operation will not take us there, and we have to think in terms of new models. Because our compound growth had been in the region of 4 to 5%, whereas annual compound growth of 6% is required. So what we did in the past will not take us there. That's for sure. Changes will be on the basis of trying to penetrate into new markets. That's why we are taking up with the government. The trade reform agenda has to be continued. We need to have market access. And we are harping on India and China. That's an absolute must for us. Otherwise, we will not be able to compete. We should also be given the permission to do international subcontracting or order management, for which the legal framework is in place today. There will be a need for us to get the government assistance to improve our technological capability and enhancing or upskilling our workforce. All those are essential ingredients of going up this the ambitious target of 8 billion. If those things are there, then the industry will take required action to ensure that we achieve the target.
The price pressure is there. Of course, the Europe is not doing very well. The customers want fast fashion. The price pressure is always there. The customers are coming with the smaller quantities, so we should be able to think about, and also we should try to get out from these low-end market products, because we don't have big capacities. Our capacity compared to countries like Bangladesh, India, Vietnam, or China, we are smaller countries. So we should use our resources appropriately in a better way. So we'll try to do more value-added items, more fashionable items. In Europe also, we are basically catering only few of the large markets, but the Eastern European countries also, their economies are also growing up. So there is potential to go there as well, because Sri Lanka has established a very good name for the quality and on-time delivery.
Well, at the Colombo Stock Exchange today, stocks edged higher for a second straight session, moving away from an 8-week closing low hit earlier this week. Turnover was 725.2 million rupees, while foreign investors were net buyers for a third straight session, with net buying of 310.7 million rupees worth of shares. And now we have Hiruni Pereira from First Capital Holdings for a report on how markets performed today.
Today in the bond market, the secondary market yield curve remained mostly unchanged, with thin volumes and limited activities on mid-tenor maturities. Equity market ended in green for the second consecutive day, with 58% of the turnover comprising of central finance rates. A 4-week high net foreign inflow was witnessed.
Sri Lanka's rupee closed slightly firmer today due to exporter dollar sales. The local currency ended at 183 rupees and 95 cents against the US dollar today. Now, here's your exchange rates for this Thursday, the 24th of January. International news is on the other side of this break. Stay with First at 9.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Other Derana 24.
Welcome Welcome back. In news overseas, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced yesterday that the country had cut off diplomatic relations with the United States, giving American diplomats 72 hours to leave the country. Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido declared himself as the nation's interim president earlier on in the day, cheered on by a growing number of international governments, including the Trump administration. As a result of the United States' support for Guaido, Maduro made the unilateral decision to cut off diplomatic relations with the United States. Venezuela's incumbent president, Maduro, was elected last year with 67.84% of the votes, and he was sworn in as president on January 10th for another 6-year term. However, many are calling the election results a sham. The US and its allies have refused to recognize Maduro. Trump said in a statement issued by the White House that the United States would continue to use economic and diplomatic powers to press for the restoration of Venezuelan democracy. The move by the US seems to have upset Russia, which recognizes Venezuela as one of its closest allies in the region. It condemns foreign powers for backing an opposition leader who declared himself interim president, calling it a bid to usurp power. Moscow said that the move violated international law and was a direct path to bloodshed. Russia also warned that any US military interference would amount to fraught with catastrophic consequences.
Also in international news, North Korea's leader has expressed great satisfaction after receiving a letter from US President Donald Trump. The North Korean state media said that the letter was passed to Kim Jong-un by one of his top aides who went to Washington last week. The two men are planning to meet for a second time by the end of February, according to the White House. They first met last June in Singapore to discuss the possible denuclearization of North Korea. Little progress has been made on the issue since then, but there has been a flurry of diplomatic activity between us towards a second summit this month. North Korean state-run news agency KCNA quoted Kim Jong-un as saying that he will believe that President Trump's positive way of thinking while waiting patiently and in good faith, and together with the US advance step by step towards the goal to be reached by the two countries. Well, we came across a commendable effort of a past pupil of CWW Kannangara Central College in Mathugama, Mahesh Wijegunawardena, who is currently a citizen of the United States. He took it upon himself to fund and build an indoor sports stadium for his alma mater.
Mahesh Wijegunawardena, a past pupil of the CWW Kannangara Central College in Mathugama, funded an indoor stadium for his school in memory of his parents at a cost of 10 million rupees. The indoor stadium was declared open today under his patronage. Mahesh Wijegunawardena is also a patent holder for the shuttlecock launching apparatus, which is commonly used in badminton.
Well, the Greek conqueror of Roger Federer at the Australian Open had his dream of getting into his first ever Grand Slam final crushed at the hands of Rafael Nadal today. Stefanos Tsitsipas could not replicate the heroics he displayed against the third seed in the round of 16 and went down tamely.
But in the women's match, Naomi Osaka's march continued as she booked a second consecutive place in a Grand Slam final following her win at the US Open last year.
Naomi Osaka kept her hopes of winning back-to-back Grand Slam titles alive by dispatching Serena Williams conqueror Karolina Pliskova to reach the Australian Open final. Osaka produced a brutal display of power hitting at the Rod Laver Arena, striking 57 winners in a 6-2, 4-6, 6-4 victory. Kvitova won 7-6, 6-love and will meet Naomi Osaka in Saturday's final. Nadal won 6-2, 6-4, 6-love as he hunts the 18th Grand Slam title.
Well, that's all from your news tonight. First at 9, I'm Indira Yamuatha.
And I'm Mahesh Jani. Have a very good night.